Good morning, everyone. This is update for June 21, 2022, day 118 of the war, end of the date update. So finally, Ukraine received today 7 Panzerhaubitzer 2000, we call it PH-2000 for short, from Germany, which is excellent self-propelled howitzer. This we would say without reservation that this is probably the best self-propelled howitzer in the world. So it's only 7. At the same time, Ukraine will receive 5 more from the Netherlands in sort of not in the near future, which bring total number to about 12. This howitzer beats any Russian howitzer by huge margin. The next we would if we rank them, the next one, like number 2, would be Polish Crab, and then there is also South Korean equivalent from which the Polish Crab is made. So those two would be sharing number 2, and then the third one that Ukraine has in its disposal is Caesar from France. So in total, Ukraine has about 36 plus 12, so 48 units of the first class equipment that clearly exceeds Russian counterparty by huge margin on the battlefield. This allows Ukraine to actually surgically, because there is so few of them, start making a difference on the battlefield, starting with the counter battery fire that allows to clear up all long distance 152 Russian guns, and eventually, obviously providing cover for their threatened front line. So overall, this is really great development for Ukraine. The only question if they will be used wisely and properly. That's the only question we have. Otherwise, this is something that truly helps and makes difference on the battlefield for Ukraine. So now let's do our regular walk through the front line in a clockwise fashion. We're going to start from the very north. So again, in this area, there is exchange of artillery and mortar fire. No sort of changes in terms of activity relative to the prior days. Now let's move to Kharkiv. Let's see what's going on east of Kharkiv. Situation here is the same, stable, no essential changes. Fight for this buffer, or from Ukrainian perspective, it's a fight to eliminate the buffer. Now let's move towards south. Let's see what's going on at Izyum bridgehead. Situation here is the same, no changes, no differences. Based even on Ukrainian reports, there's essentially no meaningful, no intense fighting. At this point, it's just artillery shelling, exchanges of the reconnaissance groups like skirmishes, that type of fighting. So basically low intensity fighting. Now let's move to Severodonetsk salient. That's where things are really developing in very dangerous way for Ukrainian side. So first of all, we'll quickly mention that Ukrainian troops are still holding on to the chemical plant in Severodonetsk. So they basically still hold the bridgehead, Severodonetsk bridgehead, on the eastern side of Seversky Donetsk River. That still holds. The sort of the most dangerous development that happened today were actually in this section. As you can see, Russian troops managed to capture this village Bila Gora here, Bila Gora. Then they captured village Myrna Dolyna. So as you can see, and then they pushed Ukrainian troops in Hirske, in village Hirske. So basically the fighting is going on now inside of this village. Before, as you can see, it was on outskirts. There is a front line. So as you can see, the shape of this is super dangerous. There is no, you can say it's a tactical encirclement of this point, of this Ukrainian troops here. Based on Just one note: in terms of retreat routes, there is not even sort of straight normal road. There is only some kind of field roads that goes through this village Raya Alexandrivka here. I mean, you can obviously go even through the fields. It's not a problem, generally speaking. But as you can imagine, there's constant fire on that field road, and essentially the supply is extremely difficult. Essentially, you can only do supply at night, and at this point, based on Russian sources, the way they described that there was almost no resistance here in Myrna Dolyna and Bila Gora, that Ukrainian troops very easily, very quickly, under very light pressure, retreated from this area, and then they also report that Ukrainian command is withdrawing troops from this salient, or whatever you call this shape. So there are two options here. One option is this is, we're observing some kind of collapse in Ukrainian front lines and the spirit to fight based on what we're seeing here. That's one option. And then that may mean, and the Ukrainian command is not withdrawing these troops, then it means some kind of encirclement here of these troops here. Or the option two, which we believe is more likely based on the evidence from the Russian sources, that Ukrainian command decided to withdraw troops from here, from this area around Zolote, from this peninsula, probably a better way to say it, and basically to withdraw it here and the straightened front line in this area. So that's more likely scenario. That's why that sort of the Russian sort of sources supported there wasn't much fighting here in this area and here, and then there are also reports that Ukrainian forces are sort of leaving this area. In terms of the number, it's based on our estimate, it's not more than 1,000 troops here, probably even less, could be as low as 500. Basically, it's very hard to estimate, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. So by this morning, it's very possible that they withdrew, and the front line will be straightened, or they sort of withdrawing with rear guard fighting. So we'll see how it'll develop. So the best scenario, it's like, you don't need to be rocket scientists. You need to quickly withdraw, and this night probably was the best option to get out of this. Essentially, encirclement was just almost like kind of like tightrope around your neck, essentially here. So we'll find out which option is sort of correct, whether sort of Ukrainian command completely sort of let's say devoid from reality, detached from reality, or they actually executing on some reasonable maneuver that prevents heavy losses right now, because it's not even so much of their loss of the like sort of the soldiers will get sort of prisoners of war, surrender and stuff like that, which is obviously very very sad and very wrong. But I think this will also how it will affect in much more profound way is the morale of Ukrainian troops. By seeing this encirclement, it will definitely depress morale. So the importance of this is much more sort of psychological than simply controlling this area and everything. So timely withdrawal from this is hopefully is going to be executed. Otherwise, this is going to be encirclement where it's very clear cut here. Then there was intense fighting here in Bilogorivka, Russian pressure, Berestove, Mykolaiivka, without much success for Russian troops here. This is how it looked. We just want to show you a little bit more detailed map. So we just want to show you how it looked yesterday. So and specifically pay attention to this eastern sort of front line here around Hirske. Because this one didn't really change here. Around Vrubivka and Kamyshovacha, Mykolaiivka stayed there essentially the same. The same kind of change here. So let's just kind of have a look a little bit more detailed. So as you can see, this is we also shift a little bit to the north, so you can better understand the whole big picture of this. So this is that Rubivka and Kamyshovaha front line in Mykolaiivka that didn't change. And then you can see that Russian troops made a dent here in Hirske to the point that there is a fighting inside of the village. But the biggest gains and the most dangerous gains are actually capture of this village, Myrna Dolyna, and then this tiny village here. And essentially they are on outskirts of Loskutivka, and basically the railroad is again separation line between the two troops. And then, there's sort of the front line goes here. So essentially, that's what we said, that the only sort of like normal escape route at this point from this peninsula is by field road that goes through this village, Raya Alexandrivka, somewhere here. So essentially, but in any case, as long as there is some sort of space here, you can obviously leave. But as you can see, the distance here at most 5 kilometers, maybe even 4 kilometers here. So that really means that if you put sort of tanks and artillery on both sides, which we're sure the Russian side is doing, it's going to be just sort of like corridor of fire to exit this. So that's why we said that the best timing would have been this night to exit from this whole peninsula. So we'll find out today, and means from this perspective tomorrow, what will sort of happen here next. Then let's actually look a little bit more towards the south of the Popasna salient. So as we discussed, Wagner mercenaries managed to make some small progress, and essentially there is a fighting in the village Klynove, and they captured almost all of it. Let's just have a look. This is how it looked like yesterday that we showed. This is how it looks. Essentially, Ukrainian troops only like on outskirts of Klynove, and it's effectively controlled by the Russian troops. And this is what we discussed, that Wagner mercenaries, they managed to penetrate a little bit more here, but that was a few days ago. So what we know here is that there is standalone battalion here was sent here to this area, and it's actually one of the best ones in Ukrainian army. So wouldn't know, as reinforcement, we discussed that there were reinforcements to Semyiria. So essentially they sort of they form defensive line here. So at this point, chances of this closing are extremely low in our opinion. Anything is possible, obviously, but given that one is one of the best units in Ukrainian army, in terms of skill, morale, everything, basically quality of people, just like even just average IQ in the unit is pretty high. So this the chances of this closing are close to zero at this point. But if you put enough pressure, enough sort of brute force, you can break anything. Nevertheless, we don't think that there is enough of brute force right now on the Russian side to kind of put pressure here, even though it's very tempting, obviously, for the Russian side. Everything is being put up there in north, where we just discussed. Now let's keep going. Let's see what's going on straight west of Donetsk. And situation here is on hold, frozen, just exchange of artillery fire, just local low intensity fighting, nothing major here. This is Zaporizhia front line. The same situation is here as well. Low intensity fighting, artillery shelling. That's situation is essentially positional fighting. And now this is our Kherson bridgehead. Again, the same as Zaporizhia front line, the same as situation as west of Donetsk, the same as situation east of Kharkiv. They all of this section of the front are sort of on pause, on hold, positional defensive positions. No major fighting, just local reconnaissance skirmishes. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.